Hello, and welcome to Regrets I've Had a Few. I'm Paul Hunter, Artistic Director of Told by an Idiot, and this is a podcast where I talk to friends and colleagues delving into what made them the person they are today.
Hello and welcome. My guest this month is a genuine creative producer. He's run a theatre, he's worked in some of our most creative institutions, and now collaborates with one of the UK's most iconic theatre figures. Welcome, Tim Bell.
Hi, Paul.
Hello, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll have to reveal who that iconic figure is. Maybe I'll wait for a bit. But it's so lovely to see you. Obviously, we met many years ago in various different guises. But I'd like to start, like I always do, Tim, if that's all right, and take you back to your, if you can, your earliest theatre memory. What it was that you might remember having seen. Was that with school or family? And how it affected you or didn't affect you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was expecting this one, so I've been racking my brains, and I think it was Norwich Puppet Theatre's production of George's Marvelous Medicine,
Oh.
which toured to my school, Hillside Avenue Primary School in Norwich, and I remember still, I can see it in my mind very clearly, the moment where Grandma's head went through the roof. And but her feet were still on the floor, and that the sort of wonder of that, the spectacle, the sort of imaginative power of that, I think has really stuck with me. I like my theatre to be theatrical. I like to see the workings. I don't like us pretending that we're not in a theatre. And so therefore, I think, yeah, that's really stuck with me.
Ah, and interesting, an early introduction to theatre via puppets. Has that something that has stayed with you, puppetry, or comes and goes?
It comes and goes, I think. I've just directed a show at it's a show for the Egg, which is part of Theatre Hall Bath, which is currently at the Unicorn, called Squirrel, which has a large puppet squirrel in it. I say large because it's sort of 3 foot tall, and
Wow.
the show is for 1 to 4 year olds, and they aren't even 3 foot tall. So I imagine to them it's absolutely terrifying. But I think that might be one of the few times I've worked with a puppet. But yeah, I do love it. It is fun. Yeah.
No, and that show sounds fantastic, and I know that's going on to have further life as well. Um, so that you have your early experience of seeing something. Do you have an early memory of performing in something at all at school or at a youth group or something? Or
Oh yeah, God, yes. I was one of those ghastly performing children.
ah,
Um, and I was in a youth theatre run by Norwich Theatre Royal, which was amazing. And those friends that I made there are my friends still, and then sort of friends for life, those people. And so I remember playing the spirit of a tree at the age of 9, alongside Al Pacino. No, in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That was probably my earliest memory of performing. Um, I also used to. This is an awful thing to admit. I used to dress up as Michael Jackson and dance in our school assemblies for the rest of the school. Sort of, it's hugely inappropriate in a number of ways now, thinking about it. But yeah, I think I
no,
was always a performer.
trust me, this is a place where you can share whatever theatrical experience you've had to. But I am now fascinated because that has taken me completely by surprise. I have to. I'm gonna have to address that in some shape or form. Was there a
Sure.
particular sequence of Michael Jackson that you would do?
No, I just sort of like pretend to do some Michael Jackson moves, and I sort of begged my mother to buy me a white sequined glove, a single white sequined glove, although you can't buy just one, obviously, and some white socks, and I just used to sort of, I don't know, pretend to moonwalk in front of people. It's very bizarre.
Wow. That is, that's that's astonishing, reveal there, Tim. Um,
Thanks very
so
much.
what age did you join the youth theatre at then? Relatively young?
Yeah, relatively young. Age of 8, I think. But I come from a fairly theatrical family. My great grandfather was a Victorian strongman.
Wow!
In the stripy red top and everything, posturing and all of those positions you imagine those guys to do. Um, and my grandmother, his daughter, was in a tap dancing troupe called Terry's Juveniles.
Wow,
Um, and
Tim!
she was yeah, exactly. Yeah, she played. I mean, I've got a lot more information on her because she's still with us than him. But she toured all over the country, sort of hippodromes and those sort of venues. Yeah, tap dancing.
So you have this in some ways makes sense of the Michael Jackson performance for me, really, in the sense that you have a rich tradition of variety and music all in your background by the sound of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And, I used to watch a lot of it as a kid when it was still on telly a lot those days. And my parents used to take me to see, I'm very lucky, privileged. They took me to absolutely everything, Agatha Christie's and whodunits and pantomimes and serious play, so-called serious plays, whatever that means. And so, yeah, I've been in and around theatre for a long time.
Well, this is interesting with this rich showbiz heritage that you come from, Tim.
Come on
Um,
now.
and you're obviously performing at the youth theatre. Was that when the first kernel of, oh, maybe I could do this for a job? Was it performing that you were thinking of doing?
Yes, it was, and I trained as an actor after I
Okay.
left school. Um,
Where did you
uh,
go?
I went to Webber Douglas,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
which is now part of Central,
Yeah.
which is in itself is a slightly odd thing because I feel when that all happened, you sort of feel a bit sort of rudderless, I guess, when the place that gave you your craft, I guess, disappeared or merged with somewhere else.
Well, it's funny you should say that because where Haley and I met 40 years ago, actually, this year, when John, we also met John Wright, our other co-founder who was teaching, was then Middlesex Polytechnic. It's now, I think, some luxury flats in Hampstead. So at least yours was absorbed into another creative institution.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Um, so at what point did you feel I mean, actually, I'm quite interested. What kind of roles did you get at drama school then, Tim? What were you playing?
Yeah, okay. So, I might skirt back a little bit
Yep.
because I was at sixth form college. I'd done all that sort of youth theatre stuff and
Yeah.
performing and found the thrill of performing and that sort of live experience as a performer. But it was only when I went to sixth form and I did theatre studies, did I really begin to uh, consider the sort of also the power of it and what it can do and the power of art, I guess. And I saw this company called Theatre de Complicité. I don't know if
Oh, yes, I've
yeah,
heard of them.
yes, more on them
More of them
later.
later. Yeah, yeah.
And saw the Street of Crocodiles and became absolutely obsessed with them, and then found another company called Told by an Idiot,
Yeah,
and
I've heard of them.
yeah, exactly, yeah, and so I was sort of imagining myself in some sort of devised process, right, and playing a part in that, and but I didn't know who to turn for, who to turn to, who to talk to about this, and so I actually did a couple of Complicity workshops, but that path into devised work was a very murky one for me. And lots of people, I knew other people in our youth theatre who'd gone to like a traditional British drama school, he said, making those sort of inverted comma signs. And that seemed like more of a tangible way of doing things, that you could go there and you could train and then you became an actor and then you got parts and then you made a career from it. And so I sort of got distracted from the thing that really lit my fire, which was devised work. And I got distracted and I got taken into drama. I applied for drama school. I got into drama school. And don't get me wrong, I had an amazing time, because you're doing plays and plays and plays and plays, and you're working on your technique, and you're reading plays, and you're with other people who are doing that. Um, and what did I get? I got sort of uh, uh, Mr. Collins. I played Mr. Collins in Pride and Prejudice.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I played a sort of I did a good line in bumbling Norfolk yokels.
Oh,
Um,
perfect,
uh, I
perfect.
had I had a quite a big beard at the time, so sort of assorted pirates, that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I
Yeah,
think I can see that I can see your casting line now, Tim.
yeah, great, thank
So
you.
it's quite interesting. You went into that route, but you'd already had this kind of interest and fascination, as you said earlier, with devising work. How did you find? What was the beginning of your journey back to that world?
Yeah, okay. I did after I left Weber, sort of 5 years or so of some half decent theatre, and some really awful British horror movies, like really that sort of never seen the light of day again. And it was when I was drawing on my experience playing assorted pirates in a production of Treasure Island, that I met a group of friends who, like me, were kind of bored of waiting for the phone to ring, and wanted to try and put something on themselves. And they were all musicians, and I'm a musician as well. Um, and we decided we were on this tour, touring out of the sort of back of a van, and we went to Lyme Regis, and this bad production of Treasure Island was fairly poorly attended in every single venue we went to, except the Marine Theatre in Lyme Regis,
I
which is a
know him well. Yeah.
beautiful little theatre that is built into the sea defences, and sort of the sea um, batters up against the side of the theatre, and it was absolutely packed in there. And we were talking to the person who ran that theatre, and we were sort of saying, "Well, what's going on here then? This is sold out. We're not normally sold out." And she said, "Well, in Lyme over the summer, there's a real thirst for it, and um, it in one way it could be thought of as a sort of end of the pier sort of variety, I guess, is sort of that audience of people who are on holiday and want to be entertained. The Marine Theatre itself used to be an old drill hall, so it reminded me of another bit of my sort of growing up tradition, which is watching rural touring theatre
Yeah.
companies,
Yes.
like hugely influenced by them, Eastern Angles, companies
Yeah.
like that. And anyway, the owner of the Marine Theatre, the person who was in charge, said, "Well, why don't you, to us group of lads, why don't you write a show and bring it back next year?" Which we did. And from that, and I was in that first show, there was something about being in it and also producing it that felt really uncomfortable for me in a way. And uh, I love actors; they're amazing and brilliant, and they can stand on a stage and not know. That's what's amazing about them. They can throw themselves into a process, uh, I I was getting more and more reluctant to do that, and more drawn towards producing or directing, or sort of having a more objective view of a process.
Yeah.
And so that's where I sort of read, and then I sort of remembered, oh yeah, I love devised work, and I sort of went back into it that way.
Okay. Well, that's yes, of course, I love that theatre. We've played there, and it's an extraordinary space, as you say, overlooking the sea and everything. And then when did the opportunity come up for you to kind of run the venue? Or how
Yes,
did that
well, well, that sort of that little rhythm that I talked about us making a show and bringing in there every summer, repeated for 3 years, I think. And we formed a company called Shanty Theatre Company, my friend Harry Long and me, and a brilliant actor musician called Stu McLaughlin, who was writing a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, yes, writing a lot with Knee High, and we were sort of in that Southwest tradition of acting musicianship storytellers, and it was on I think our third summer there that they invited us to apply to run the building. Um, which was a different proposition, right? Because Lyme Regis um, has a big reputation because of Pride and Prejudice, when Jane Austen and all of that sort of stuff. The French Lieutenant's
Yes,
Woman.
indeed. Yeah.
Um, uh, and it's packed in the summer, and they have 10,000 visitors every single day in the summer.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
but but only 3,500 people live there year round, and so it's like a big village in the winter. And we got the job, and we were sort of sat there one day thinking, September drifted into October, which drifted into November, and suddenly it was very, very, very quiet. And we might be doing, one show a week, if we're lucky, on for a one nighter, and that might be, yourselves. It might be Told by an Idiot, or it might be Malt Loaf, the vegan tribute to Meatloaf, or or Genesis, the Genesis tribute band. Um,
Well, all I can say to jump in there, Tim, is I'm very glad that the idiots are keeping such brilliant company.
yeah, me too.
Uh,
Me
The
too.
names themselves, Maltloaf is inspired.
Yeah,
Sorry, so yeah,
absolutely.
carry on. Yeah.
No, but we thought, well, what can we do with this venue the rest of the time? And so we started a program called R&D by the Sea, where we would invite companies down to use our space, and the sort of dedicated, amazing network of volunteers who kept that building going would put people up, and people would sort of test out ideas. And I guess at that point, I got really interested in process and how to find or facilitate artists to find forms that perfectly match the content of their ideas. And what can I do as a producer creatively to make that happen? And that sort of is the thing that started me on the journey that I'm on now, I guess.
Well, I think that is you've put that so eloquently. It is a perfect segue into your current job, which I want to get your correct title. You're senior creative producer. What's your
Yeah, I know. I don't like the senior bit, but somebody other than me thinks it's important. So yeah,
okay?
I'm
Well,
see, see
I
yeah.
should now reveal, also for those who don't know, that you work and collaborate very closely with Simon McBurney at Complicité, and it feels like the progression that you've gone on, to then end up working with Simon and obviously everyone else, the amazing people that are part of that company. Um, how did that come about? And I have to ask, what was the early stages of that like, walking into that relationship and that dynamic?
Yeah, wow. What was the early stages? So lockdown happened, and I was at the time working at the Egg in Bath, which is
Yeah,
an amazing
amazing place.
amazing children's venue, and it really does extraordinary things for children's art, and you don't get a lot of that in this country, I think. Uh, and this job at Complicité came up, and I guess my head was turned. I mean, I really loved working at the Egg, but there was something about Complicité, that company I saw all those years ago, do
Yeah.
it was Street of Crocodiles and then Mnemonic, that really hooked me in, and so I applied. And it was in lockdown, so I was interviewed online on Zoom. Yuck. But that yuck enabled me to cover my computer screen with post-it notes with all the things I made sure I wanted to say. Um, and I got the gig, and Simon said, "Well, before you start, why don't you come down to the southwest to Stroud, where Simon lives, to a place called Hawkwood, the College for Future Thinking, which you might or might not have been to. It's an amazing rehearsal facility
Oh, wow.
uh, where they can put up to 48 people up, and there's a rehearsal room and studios and this sort of stuff. And we do a lot of work there. And Simon and I decided very early on that we were going to learn by doing. That was Simon's invitation to me, is that we'd start to make things and we'd learn how to work together by making things together. And that's what we're still doing.
Yeah, well, that's also obviously in some ways a really great philosophy to get to know someone like that. And in a sense, I suppose that's certainly what happened with me and Haley. We rocked up
Yeah.
and didn't know each other, and then John provoked us, and we got to know each other through doing stuff. And
Um,
actually putting it as succinctly as doing stuff is it's a very it's also obviously a very instinctive and very direct way, because we often assume, oh, we need to find out lots of things about each other by talking and meeting, and whereas actually the doing of it reveals maybe more about who we are and what we're like, and more immediately perhaps.
but
Did it feel like that?
yeah, yeah, totally. And you don't really find out about somebody until you're in the trenches with them,
Very true.
and you're trying to make work together, and you're bumping heads, and you don't know, and it's God, it's on next week, and what are we going to do? Or we've got to deliver this thing to whoever by the end of the day, and that's when you really sort of learn. I think I love it. I love just rolling sleeves up and getting going.
Yes,
Um,
it's true, isn't it? And I think, those, or if I think about, the fantastic relationship I have with Jen at Toll by an Idiot, I think it's all in the most unlikely of places where things don't always go in any way, often don't go the way you thought it might go, that you then not only rely on each other, but spark off each other, I think.
I totally agree that. That uncertainty is the place of creativity, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
guess as a producer, um, my job is to make people feel safe in uncertainty. Are the artists I'm working with, whilst at the same time in a world that is so outcome driven, it's to sort of try and clear the way, to try and sort of declutter a process. So the artists that I work with, not just Simon, can really follow their instincts, and for me to hold that space with all that tidal wave of expectation with all of my might. And sometimes it feels like there's that Wallace and Gromit meme, isn't it, where Gromit's laying the train track as
Yeah.
the train is hurtling towards wherever oblivion, and we don't know where we're going. Sometimes my job feels like that. Another time, we've just finished a 4-year project with uh, Crystal Pite, the extraordinary Canadian choreographer and the Netherlands Dance Theatre, and we're talking at time of the Winter Olympics, aren't we? Crystal describes my role as being like the guy in the curling team who's frantically sort of shuffling the ice as this whatever it's called, the stone glides to where it needs to be. And it does feel like that sometimes too. It's just that making space.
I think, well, I think the two analogies you use, the Wallace and Gromit laying the track, and your choreographer's analogy reference to the curling, I think seem very appropriate. Um, and I think it's interesting that because one can get suddenly or sometimes kind of bound by the lack of risk that happens around things. You and I have spoken about this before, and being able to genuinely invest and support in risk at a time when people aren't fully embracing it, I think requires a particular personality, which I think you certainly do have. Tim, we are kind of approaching the end of this really fascinating chat. Um, and I always like to finish by asking some rapid fire questions to my guest. Um,
Great.
and you just have to say the first thing that comes into your head as a response to these questions. So here we go. I see you're sporting one, and we've talked about this briefly when we bumped into each other. Do you favor the neutral baseball cap or the branded baseball cap?
I prefer a neutral one, but they're quite hard to find, and so I end up in branded ones more often than I like.
Brilliant answer. Um, this is, I think, I'm interested to know the answers to this. The Cobb at Lyme Regis or Borough Market?
Oh, goodness. The Cobb at Lyme Regis.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Script or improvisation?
Improvisation.
Pulp or Radiohead?
Radiohead.
Table tennis or volleyball?
I'm really good at table tennis, and this is an open invitation to any listeners to challenge me to a game of table tennis, and good luck. That's all I can say.
Well, I have to say that's made this episode for me because you speak with the confidence that my 15-year-old son Dexter, he is absolutely convinced, and you have that conviction, and with that conviction, which I really admire, um, I think we might have to set up a Complicité idiot table tennis tournament
Yeah,
across all departments. We
g- game.
what
I mean, game on. I
what do you
did
reckon?
I did the Claw leadership program, and everyone was talking up their table tennis skills, and I tell you what, they were all awful. And I'm very suspicious of anyone in life who has arrived at a conclusion, who is sure about anything. Sort of uncertainty is my sort of modus operandi, except the fact that I'm really good at table tennis.
Well, I think that's brilliant, and you've spent the whole episode talking about, not, being uncertain, being in that kind of place, but you're very definite. So let's talk about this uh, table
Yeah,
tennis.
and it's not just me. Natalie in our creative engagement department. I've never seen her play, but I imagine she's excellent. I think there's a few dark horses in
Yeah,
there as
I
well.
think
Yeah.
we could draw on a few, and then there might be some debate as to who gets to have what players. Like obviously there is some crossover between Tom Brady and Complicity. A bit
Yes,
like
of
with
course.
former players. Anyway, we've got sucked down the rabbit hole of table tennis. Swallows and Amazons, or The Hobbit,
Ooh, swallows and Amazons.
and a Devon approach to the scone, or the Cornish approach to the
Oh
scone.
my goodness. Devon. Ah,
Perfect.
I'm sorry,
Tim,
everyone in Cornwall.
Tim, it's been utterly delightful as ever to catch up. Thank you so much for sharing your insights around what you do and your journey. It's fascinating. I wish you, obviously, I look forward inevitably to see what else is being cooked up in Complicité HQ by you and the gang. And I hope to see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Our next show is a Michael Jackson tribute piece, so I
In
can't
which,
wait for you
in
to see it.
which takes place during a table tennis game.
In a school assembly. That's right.
Yeah, perfect. I look forward to it. I'll book my ticket now. Cheers,
Yeah,
Tim.
great. Cheers, Paul.
Thanks very much. All the best.
Okay, bye.
Dear listeners, if you've enjoyed this idiot podcast, please spread the word